to join us today for this webinar. Now, before we begin, I just want to share a few housekeeping items with everyone. So please note that everyone except for my guests and the panelists and my assistants today, so everyone except for the host, have been muted for the presentation portion of this webinar today. But we know you have questions, and we know you will have questions. And what we would love you to do is, as we work through the presentation today, please submit your questions through the Q&A feature, which is located on the bottom navigational bar of this webinar. So this is the best way for you to post your questions. Many of those questions we'll be able to answer live, or we'll be able to answer as part of the webinar as well. Now, the Q&A feature on this webinar works best for us to answer these questions as it allows us to kind of answer them individually. Ultimately, however, you can use the chat feature. Now, before we get started, I do just want to let you know that this webinar is primarily focused towards students, families, and their supporters that are looking at exploring our undergraduate degree program. And today we are focused on our Outdoor Recreation, Parks, and Tourism program. We will not be covering grad studies. So if you're here looking at a master's or PhD program, that's not what this webinar is today. And we are primarily focused on domestic students, so students that are coming from Canada. So if you are an international student or a student that doesn't fall into one of those categories I've mentioned, you're more than welcome to attend. But please be aware of the content of this webinar, and we would be more than happy to provide you with other resources available for students that are beyond kind of Canadian high school students and looking at exploring other programs at Lakehead as well. Now, the other thing is to please be aware that myself and all of my co-hosts today are still working from home and working remotely. And as a result, there can occasionally be some unavoidable or unexpected noises in the background. And lastly, I just want to let you know that this webinar is being recorded. So we're going to do some quick introductions as well. I want you to know who's kind of on with you today. We are super excited that you've taken some time this afternoon to escape and explore kind of everything that Lakehead has to offer and really experience that anything but ordinary type of university experience. So please kind of just sit back and relax for the next 45 to 60 minutes. Now, I know that may sound a bit, it all depends on you guys and the number of questions you throw at us as we explore what it's like to be a Lakehead University student, both inside and outside the classroom. And we really look at what your university degree can provide you beyond the classroom. And today we are focusing on our Outdoor Recreation, Parks, and Tourism program. I just want to do a couple of quick introductions. My name is Tori. I'm one of the recruitment advisors out of our Office of Undergraduate Recruitment. I also have a colleague with me today, Rebecca. You will not see Rebecca. Rebecca is my answer fairy working behind the scenes. So she's going to be manning our Q&A and our chat feature as well. So I want to thank Rebecca for the support that I have. And I have three guests from the Outdoor Recreation, Parks, and Tourism program. Look at that, they're all popping up. And so I'm going to get them to turn their mics on and do a little bit of introductions about themselves.
Hi, my name is Julie Rosenthal. I was actually a student in the School of Outdoor Recreation, Parks and Tourism back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And now I'm currently one of the professors in the program. So I'm really glad to be here with you today. And there are two current students who are joining me. I'll have them introduce themselves as well.
Hi, my name's Kelsey. I'm a fourth year ORPT student with a minor in sociology. And I'm very excited to showcase what great this program is.
Hi folks, my name's Glenn. I'm a fourth year ORPT student, and I'm also doing a dual degree, so I'm getting my Bachelor of Education as well. And I'm your Outdoor Recreation Student Society Development Fund Coordinator.
Fantastic. So you can see I have like the dream team here today that's going to talk all about the amazing things that this program has to offer. And before I hand it over to them, I want to do a little bit about Lakehead. So for a number of you, you may be super familiar with Lakehead and everything that Lakehead has to offer. But before we jump into the program, I want to talk a little bit about what it would be like to be a Lakehead Thunderwolf. And so Lakehead was founded in 1960. 65, and we've got over 65,000 alumni living and working in all corners of the world. So do not think about this degree as a degree that allows you to have to stay stable. This is a degree, like many of our degrees, that can put you in all corners of the world. And Lakehead has our graduates have found success in many different fields, everything from business to engineering, education, and the environment, as well as our law and medical school as well. And our grads are doing things that are far from ordinary. And many of our grads really credit their success to their time at Lakehead and the world of opportunities that opened to them while they were here with us. And there's a couple cool stats up on the screen. It talks about kind of we're one of Canada's top 10 universities. The new rankings for undergraduate research just came out. We're actually ranked number 2 right now in Canada. We held that number 1 ranking for 5 consecutive years. And the new rankings just came out. We just bumped down 1 slot, but we're super proud of kind of what we do from the research end of things. But the one thing that our students really talk about is our small class sizes. And Lakehead students and grads really cite again and again that the class sizes, so 90% of our classes have less than 60 students in them, really contributed to their success. And many times it's an influential professor, I don't know, Julie, could be you, that has made that difference in their lives. Kelsey and Quinn are smiling in the background there. It's that influential professor, and it's that small class sizes that really does make a difference for our students, because when we know you by name and when you know a little bit more about us other than just kind of that name at the front of the lecture hall, then it really helps promote and support and allow you to have this incredible journey beyond the university. We talked about kind of careers, and careers is something that many students are super interested in. If you're coming to invest in university, you want to know you're going to be successful. And, finding that future career is an important factor in your university's decision. We know that. You want to know that you've got that path ahead of you. And we're super successful with our grads. 96.7% of our grads are finding success and finding opportunities and employment within their field within 2 years of graduation. So rest assured, you're going to be well prepared for your future and an amazing future career. And, many times our grads and our students will talk to us about their career actually started before convocation, before they crossed that stage, graduated. And it was because of opportunities that they had during the program. I know we're going to touch on those, so I don't want to get too excited, but those opportunities they've had with kind of that hands-on experiential approach, how we prepare our students to be career ready right from day one. So as I mentioned, this webinar today is focused solely on our outdoor recreation, parks, and tourism program. And I'll tell you, during this pandemic, outside has allowed me to stay sane. So it's been the one thing in my life where I haven't had to really adjust my life that much. And we know that outdoor recreation really plays an increasing and an important role in our lives. It contributes to our health. It contributes to our family units. It helps for us to enrich culture, economic development. And our outdoor recreation, parks, and tourism program is the only one of its kind in Canada. And we're going to talk about what makes us a little bit unique. But before we get too deep in that, I want to start with a video that kind of highlights our program. Awesome. So now I am going to hand it over to the experts to talk a little bit more about this amazing program.
Great, thanks so much for the introduction, Tori. So I just wanted to mention, and Tori highlighted the fact that we are a unique program in Canada. So Lakehead University's School of Outdoor Recreation, Parks and Tourism is Canada's longest running program related to outdoor recreation. So we're really proud to have that record. And what's really unique about our program as opposed to other programs that have a similar focus is that our program has a wide range of subjects that we cover. So we have a breadth of subjects that makes us stand out from the rest. We cover things from outdoor leadership through to nature-based tourism, protected areas management, and we even have a specialty area in nature-based therapeutic recreation, which allows students to really explore what they might be interested in. And as they go through the program, they start specializing and focusing on those areas that are of most interest to them. So what's really great about the Outdoor Rec program is that you can start getting exposure to this wide range of opportunities, and the common thread amongst them is the fact that we spend our times outdoors, you know, that we recreate outdoors, and we want to make sure those natural environments stay as pristine as we can, so that future generations can also enjoy those environments. So we also have a double degree, several double degree options for our program, which we'll talk about a little bit later in the presentation, as well as a concentration in therapeutic recreation. We have a lot of emphasis both on the theory and the practice of the subjects that we talk about. So trying to integrate both of those is a really unique element of the program that we offer. And Glenn's going to talk to us about what makes Thunder Bay a great place to learn about outdoor recreation, parks, and tourism.
Thanks, Julie. So like the slide says, Lakehead University is in an unbeatable location. It's nestled along the north shore of Lake Superior, which are the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe and Métis peoples, encompassed within the Robinson Superior Treaty 60 area. This is an area of stunning landscapes, both large and small, and we're so lucky that they play host to many of our field courses and boasts an amazing wealth of biodiversity in this area. There's excellent access in the Thunder Bay region to endless areas to get out and explore, both with school courses and on your own free time. We've got world-class rock and ice climbing in Orient Bay, which is essentially the Yosemite of the North, hidden waterfalls in Dorian, which is locally known as Canyon Country, and of course, salt-free and shark-free sea kayaking, as you can see on the slide there. All this is just a Northern Ontario drive down the road, so that could be anywhere from 1 to 4 hours.
Great. Thanks, Glenn. So we mentioned that the double degree program is one of the things that makes the School of Outdoor Recreation, Parks and Tourism at Lakehead a unique option for studying these subjects. And about a quarter of our students choose to have the straight Honors Bachelor of Outdoor Recreation as their program. And this gives them a lot of electives to fill up their schedule, to explore other subject areas. There are 4 opportunities to have a double degree in 4 years. So this allows students to have a Bachelor's of Arts as well as a an Honors Bachelor of Outdoor Recreation in 4 years. So you get two degrees for your energies at Lakehead. So you could choose to be focusing with geography, history, or gender and women's studies, and getting a Bachelor of Arts with those subjects as well as your outdoor recreation degree. Or you can choose, which is what I did as a student, to have a Bachelor's of Science, which focuses on natural science and biology, along with the outdoor recreation degree. There's also a 6-year concurrent education program option. And a lot of students, you can see the sort of light blue is that proportion of students in our program. So a lot of students do want to get a teaching certificate once they are finished with their career with Lakehead. And so they do a concurrent education degree with the Honors Bachelor of Outdoor Recreation. So that's a really popular option, and it really fits well because outdoor rec becomes one of the teachables that you are able to choose for your education degree. And then there's also a concentration in nature-based therapeutic recreation, which Kelsey's going to tell us a little bit more about.
Thanks, Julie. So the concentration in nature-based therapeutic recreation involves a little bit inside the department and some outside the department. Outside the department, the courses you need to take include anatomy and some psychology courses, which really focus on understanding the behavior of why people make certain decisions and why we go outdoors and things like that. Whereas in the department, there's 3 mandatory classes to take, and they kind of focus on the who needs or who can access therapeutic or recreation therapists, why we need recreation therapists, and how to become that. So when we talk about who, it's our class that's inclusive and specialized therapeutic recreation, and we learn about different forms of disabilities and impairments and understanding why we might need inclusive programs or we might need specialized programs, and the differences and what makes them so important and impactful in an individual's lives and in a community's life. And then there's therapeutic recreation and adventure therapy, which is kind of the why. It really focuses on the theory and understanding nature-based activities and how impactful they can be to our minds, our spirits, our souls, and then of course our physical health. And then finally, there's standards of practice in therapeutic recreation, which is about how do we actually become recreation therapists. And we learn things like doing a assessment, implementing a plan, evaluating our program plans, and then how do we actually do case notes and document working with different clients. Really unique things about that class is that we are using the systems that are used in Ontario in long-term care facilities, in community support living places. And it's really great just to be able to try what's actually being used. And I think that just kind of over encompasses everything that happens in the program, which brings me to the next point of this balance of theory and practice within the program. The whole department focuses on balancing what we learn in the classroom and how it actually relates to our real world experiences, whether that is on a trip with program or whether that's out with your friends doing a little bit of a hiking excursion. Everything that you learn, it comes back into play. So in classrooms, you'll learn navigation, how to work with others, risk management, and understanding how to make good decisions in the outdoors. And then you go outdoors and you'll put those decisions and those learnings actually into practice. And so you'll be out on a trip and you have to navigate on a lake. It's a whole lot different than when you learned navigation in the classroom, but because you understand those classroom skills, it makes sense outside. You don't panic, you know what you're doing, and we're really put into safe spaces to be able to learn. So that balance is really there of classroom and out of classroom, and that balance of theory and practice. Glenn's going to talk a little bit more about what our outdoor classrooms look like.
So like Kelsey had said, we love to balance that indoor 4-wall classroom environment with an outdoor classroom. So in conjunction with our dynamic classroom setting, many of our courses are going out into the local area to engage with the community and the wealth of resources we have locally. Some of the favorite outdoor classroom experiences I've had are going to one of the local parks, Chippewa Park, and birding with local experts, learning from Indigenous educators at the Fort William Historical Park and up on Enumclaw. And we even, in my second year, got to spend a few days in Minnesota to understand the differences between American and Canadian winter cycling trail networks while we were conducting a research study regarding fat biking in the region. We also have, in your upper years, you will do a 3370 and a 4370 course. And these are our expedition-based courses. And that's probably your longest chunk of time in what we would call an outdoor classroom, where you're going to spend just shy of about 2 weeks with a crew of students learning through an expedition.
So as Glenn was mentioning, excuse me, those outdoor classrooms, he was talking about a few of those trips. And one of the questions we always get asked is equipment for these trips. And, you know, I don't have the right gear. Do I need to go spend a whole bunch of money and buy all these new things? The answer is no. What you do need to bring into the program is you need to have your rain gear, top and bottom. You need to have your compass, and you need to have some kind of solid hiking shoes and outdoor shoes, as well as kind of a day pack. Those are what you need to bring. Everything outside of that, we have an equipment depot, which is really great. And the equipment depot is literally a library of all this amazing outdoor gear. You get to try out different things like snowshoes, ice climbing gear. They've got your paddles and your PFDs. They've got your gear for kayaks, everything like that, which is really great. And we get to rent it out for no cost because you are students of ORPT. And it just allows us to be able to be exposed to a lot more gear without us taking on the responsibility of the financial burden. One thing I really like about it is being able to try out different systems and seeing what it's like. So trying out, do I want to sleep under a tent? Do I want to use a bivy sack, or do I want to use a tarp? I can rent it all from the depot and try out everything I want on those trips or for a day trip. The other thing we get asked a lot about with ORPT is I'm not really skilled in my outdoor kind of technical skills. Does that mean I shouldn't apply? No, definitely apply. The program meets you at whatever skills you have. If you have absolutely no outdoor skills, that's no problem at all. The profs and the instructors will help teach you all those skills, and you'll be competent and confident in the outdoors once you graduate. If you do come in with more skills, then what you do is you get the opportunity to help teach your classmates. And so it might be that you have lots of skills in a tarp and knots and setting up a shelter like that. Then you'll get to help your classmates in that learning, which is really great.
As to, you know, what some of the highlights of the program and the sides of it from a student perspective. One of the key things that happens in first year is that first outdoor skills and theory class, where you are learning the basic skills of being in the outdoors, being out there and doing recreation activities in a way that's safe, respectful of the environment, and enjoyable. And so like Kelsey said, we do try to work with people's skill level coming into the program so that everyone does come out of the program with the skills and competence that they need to do that next step in their career. So one of the first classes that we have in outdoor recreation, parks and tourism, right in the fall semester, is your very first outdoor skills and theory class, where you're learning all about what it means to be in the outdoors, how to do so safely and comfortably, and where you can have a chance to mentor each other in the skills that you know that maybe others don't, or to acquire skills that you haven't quite learned yet. There's a bit of a joke that we have everyone who's only ever camped in Hotel Hilton, all the way through to someone who's summited Everest. And we don't quite have that exact range of skills, but you can come in with a very basic level of, just a love for the outdoors, and we'll work with you to get those technical skills. And if you've got lots of technical skills, that's great too, because there's a way of utilizing those and practicing teaching others to have those skills as well. So outdoor skills and theory is one of those courses that you learn in first semester. Another class that you take in first semester is called land relations. And one thing that's really important to us is that when we are recreating in the outdoors, that we can build respect and connection for the natural and cultural history of these areas. So land relations gives the students an opportunity to get familiar with a lot of different places right around Thunder Bay and the Thunder Bay region, as well as the key features like the plants and the animals that are found in this landscape, as well as a strong appreciation for the cultural history in the area. And so there are lessons that are taught by Indigenous elders from this region that are shared with the students in this class that all make for very meaningful learning right from your first semester. And a lot of those classroom sessions are both indoors, so that we do actually have a lot of time in the classroom setting, but then they're complemented by outdoor labs. So you might think of labs as places where you wear, laboratory coats and have test tubes, but our labs are those opportunities where we're actually out in the field practicing these skills. In the winter semester of first year, you also take a course called Group Dynamics. And so this is a way for us to understand how groups work, to explore our leadership styles, to learn how to be a really strong member of a group, because most of the recreation that we do is in groups. And if we can learn how to manage groups in such a way that they're functioning at their best, then that makes for a really great outdoor experience and really helps us to achieve the goals that we're aiming for in the outdoors. During that class, we try to have a chance for the students to connect with the larger Thunder Bay community. And so this picture that you see in front of you is one of our field experiences in group dynamics, where we look at a very large group activity, and that's the Sleeping Giant Loppet. There's over 800 skiers that come to participate in this ski event at Sleeping Giant Provincial Park. And our students get a chance to be volunteers to help that event go smoothly. And then we actually connect that into our lectures in group dynamics and talk about, managing crowds and how do small groups of volunteers make such great events happen. So that's a really exciting class in first year as well. And another course that's required in first year is Foundations. And so this is where you learn a lot of the theories that end up getting addressed later in the program. So you'll learn about people's needs and how the outdoors fits into your hierarchy of needs, and how do we push ourselves outside of our comfort zone into a learning zone so that we actually do take risks, and what are risks and how do they relate to our learning. So there's lots of really exciting things that happen in our first year. And in addition to those 4 outdoor rec classes, you do take an English class, and depending on which program you choose, so like I said, there are a number of double majors, there may be program requirements in those other major activity areas or the other degree options that you'll have to take in first year as well. But everyone who comes into outdoor rec, parks and tourism starts out with those 4 classes, and it's a really great opportunity because there's lots of student engagement and you get to meet people right away. So I'll actually pass it over to Glenn, who's going to talk about how you can get involved and meet other students in the program and be a part of creating what the program's all about.
And before we hand it over to Glenn, we're just going to address a couple of questions, just because they've kind of been on the areas we talked about. And Julie, I had to smile when you talked about your learning and pushing you to a point of risk so you can have learning. Conversations we have in this household all the time about safe risks and continuing our learning opportunity. So we just have a couple of questions. Glenn, you did a great job of answering one of them, but I just want to put it out live as well. So one of the questions was around first year on kind of that approach to in-classroom versus that outdoor classroom experience. As a first-year student, how much time is actually going to be in the classroom, and how much time is going to be out in the environment or in the lab? So I'll let you guys answer that one, and then I have one more before we pass it back to Glenn.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we do spend a lot of time in the classroom because we do have to have a chance for us to have a distraction-free, theoretical lesson to get the basics before we go outside. So in that OSAT class, so Outdoor Skills and Theory, we have a full Friday sort of blocked off so that you can have opportunities to be out in the field practicing those skills. There are also sometimes weekend excursions that you would be aware of well in advance so you can fit that into your schedule. But that Friday session is a chance to be out for a full day pretty much every week during the first semester. So that's the fall term. It depends on kind of the weather and finding out how much opportunity there is. When we can, we like to bring our classes outside because there are activities that we can do, for example, in group dynamics, where we're going to be problem solving and physically active. And then if we can in the outdoors and it's not minus 30, then we'll bring our class out. If it's minus 30, we'll probably stay back inside. So there are opportunities each semester to get out into the outdoors. Land relations is another one that has a 2-hour lecture period and a 2-hour lab period. And a lot of times those lab periods are in the natural environment, either on campus, and that's one thing that's really great about our campus, is we've got incredible natural places on campus to explore as well. In the winter, we have a little bit less time outside in first year. But in second year, there's an Outdoor Skills and Theory 2 course, which is similar in structure to OSAT 1, but this time it's in the winter term. And so you'll have full day sessions exploring skills in the outdoors. I'll get Kelsey or Glenn to sort of add into that discussion how that's worked for you in terms of the balance of in-class versus out of class.
Oh, go ahead, Glenn.
Sure. So coming to the program, I had heard a couple things from other people about how outdoor workers are outside all the time when we're never in class. And then other folks have said, oh, they're always in class. And I found that it was a really healthy balance of being able to learn those foundational skills or refresh them in the classroom. And then, like Julie was saying, with those Friday labs, you learn the material on a Tuesday and then you're out practicing it in the field on Friday. So they really complement each other.
I think the other part to that too is, sometimes during class, it's going to be a classroom day, but if it's a gorgeous day outside and we're all like, oh, we need to be in the sun, we might go sit outside and have our discussion outside, just because we all know how much better we feel when we're just outdoors on campus, and you're still getting all those same benefits of your in-classroom discussion. You just get to be outdoors as well.
Mm-hmm. The other thing too is I don't know what you might be picturing as, an inside classroom experience. You might be thinking of the professor in front of a classroom, a huge lecture hall of students, everyone taking notes, and this professor's ba 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 ba. In my classes, I try to talk as less, like the little amount as possible, and try to have the discussion amongst the students. We have a lot of hands-on activities. So even if we're in the classroom, that doesn't mean it's just passive learning, taking notes. In the classroom, in the School of Outdoor Recreation, Parks and Tourism, is a lot more engaging. And oftentimes we're sharing our own we're sharing responsibility for teaching the classes. So Kelsey would come in with some life experiences, that Glenn has different life experiences, and we all share responsibility teaching this class and bringing our own experiences into the content. And so in the class doesn't mean boring, big lecture hall, all you're doing is taking notes. We expect you to be quite active in our classroom sessions.
That was awesome. Thank you so much. I think you went far beyond kind of just answering that question. And it really demonstrates that when we talk about that in classroom, it's not as many people envision university, sat in rows and rows and rows with a professor just up at the front. The other question I just want to address before we move on was related to our equipment depot, which we kind of chatted about on one of the previous slides, and not that need to bring equipment. And the question was, can we access this equipment on our free time, or can we only use it as it's related to our class?
Yeah, I can take this one. So with the Gear Depot, if you're signing up gear for a course, your professor's going to just send an email to the Gear Depot, and then they're going to have it there for you to take out free of charge. If you wanted to take out gear for a personal trip, it's available to you. You just show up to the Gear Depot at the hours it's open, you ask to rent the equipment, and as long as it's not booked for use for another program, then you're allowed to take it out for quite a nominal fee. We don't have to pay that much, and it is also available to the public. So if you have friends who aren't in the program, but you want to go snowshoeing with them, they can also rent. It's just a slightly different fee if you're not in the outdoor rec program.
Awesome. Thanks, Glenn. And as Kelsey mentioned, this is actually a great way to test a lot of equipment before you decide what type of equipment you want to purchase as well. You probably have lots of equipment of your own, but this is maybe a great way to try something that you haven't tried before, to upgrade the equipment that you already have within your own kind of arsenal of equipment. So I'm going to hand it over to, I think, Glenn now to talk a little bit about Beyond the Classroom.
Yeah, let's chat about Outdoor Recreation Student Society. And I just want to let you folks know that this, what you're seeing on the screen here, this is all makeup and prosthetics during a wilderness first responder course that we hosted. So the Outdoor Recreation Student Society, or as you'll hear us called around the rec hall, ORSIS, we are a group of elected students who liaise between the student body and our faculty. This board is made up of 7 people. We've got our president, our vice president of finance, a development fund coordinator, myself, our course coordinator, information coordinator, social coordinator, and professional development coordinator. Now we all work together to just really develop the social aspects of outdoor rec beyond the classroom, to do things like host courses on campus. So what you're seeing here is a wilderness first responder course, which is almost an industry standard for a lot of the more advanced positions in guiding. And it's quite an expensive course. But what we do as your representatives is we go and hire an instructor, and we negotiate the best possible price for you, so that you're able to get those certifications right on campus nice and easily. Other things that we like to do are we host social and professional events targeted towards outdoor recreation students. So like Lakehead University hosts a general job fair, ORSIS hosts a rec-specific job fair, so where we're bringing in camps, tree planting organizations, a number of different organizations who might be more applicable to outdoor recreation students. We also host at the beginning of the year a rec frosh, just to get to let people get to know each other a little bit, and our rec sibling program, which is where we pair newer rec students, or reccers as you might be called, with upper year students who can show them around town, help them find used copies of textbooks, and just make those social connections. And of course, my position handles the development fund. So to be a member of ORSIS, you're going to be paying a $45 fee, and 30 of that goes to the development fund. Now, the development fund is accessible to any ORSIS member to fund an educational venture or a professional goal. You then repay your colleagues, because it's not our money, it's all of the students collectively. You then repay them through deliverables and giving back to the program. Some of the successful ventures we funded are sending students. About 2 years ago, we sent a student to Australia to present at an international conference on her thesis. We've funded dog sledding expeditions, and even small business startups of graduates of the program. So moving along, I'd love to talk a little bit about the sense of community.
So the sense of community is really big in our program. It starts off right away in those first year connections. In those first couple of classes, you're going to do some group work, you're going to meet each other, and you're really going to get to know everyone that's going to be in your cohort for the next 4 years. And by doing all this group work and activities with them, you get to know each other and build the connections. And it's great because you already have something in common. You already all love the outdoors. And so you just build off of that interest together. One of the other things about our community is we're just so open and welcoming. Anyone can come be involved in the outdoors, whatever your skill level is, whatever your interests are. There are other people that are in the community that like the same things as you. Glenn was saying with that rec sibling program, that is a great way that shows that how open and welcoming our community is, and how much you're going to get to know upper year students and eventually alumni and faculty.
Yeah, and beyond even that, our program carries a lot of weight within the industry. Like Julie said, we are the oldest program in Canada for outdoor recreation, and as such, people tend to know our name. Employers love to hear that you are a part of our program. It really can go the extra mile in sealing the deal for that job in the industry. And even beyond employment, there's a sense of intergenerational camaraderie in the rec community and a mutual understanding of values and commitment to the natural environment when you meet other people who have gone through this program. You're going to meet recent grads working in the field or even coming in to guest lecture for you. And many older grads have gone on to start their own businesses in the industry, and they may even hire you one day. And then some of our grads have gone on to become your professors, like Julie.
Thanks, Glenn. And I can kind of speak from a long-term perspective. I won't mention how long, but I know that I met people the first 2 days that I came onto campus. I only knew that there was one other student from the high school that I came from attending the program. And so I showed up before she did, so I knew nobody when I arrived at Lakehead. I walked on campus, I was just going to the cafeteria, and a bunch of people were playing ultimate frisbee. And they said, "Hey, you want to join?" And I sort of looked behind. I wasn't sure who they were talking about. And they invited me to join, and I am not good at ultimate frisbee at all. But those people who invited me to play along ended up becoming really close friends throughout my university career, and I still am best friends with some of them to this day. And and I will tell you how long ago that was. It's been around over 20 years. We've seen each other get married, have children, all of these major events in our lives all started on that first week of my experience with the outdoor rec program. And you make really good, solid friendships really quickly, partly because we spend so much time doing group work and interactions and discussions in our classrooms that you get to know people. You're not just a stranger and a head amongst a whole bunch of people in a lecture hall. You're somebody who's connected to other people, who's connected to other people, who are connected to your professors. Everybody calls me Julie. I can't remember the last time I was called Dr. Rosenthal. It sounds weird to me because we all sort of see each other not as, two different levels, but all having different experiences that we can contribute to each other's education. And I keep learning from my students every day.
One question we get asked a lot is, what can you do with an outdoor recreation degree? What types of jobs are out there? And so that's a big question, especially for a lot of parents. They want to know, what is the reality of the career pathways? So our alumni are doing quite a range of careers. They can be in academia. We've got people in parks like wardens or park superintendents for national parks or provincial parks, our marine conservation areas. We've got people that run their own businesses like dog sledding or kayaking expeditions. And then we've got lots of people that are into education, whether it's kind of the traditional teacher in a classroom education, or if it's more a little bit experiential education where they might be guiding groups of outdoor students in trips in the Yukon. So we have a huge range of what our alumni are doing, but one of the biggest things that our alumni talk about is the transferability of the skills that you learn in ORPT. One of the big things is those group dynamic and leadership skills. Those transfer to every field that you can think of. It's always important to know how to work with people and how to work with groups and how to be a leader in those situations. And those come in handy whether you are outdoors or you're a lawyer. You're always going to need those skills. One of the other things that happens a lot with our alumni and our students is they transfer from seasonal work to long-term work. So that could be from camps where you get a job through those job fairs at a camp. You come back the next year, and after you've graduated, they're going to hire you on after because you've built those skills, you've built that reputation. So a lot of our students do transfer into long-term work. Additionally, our students tend to go into further education. So like the Con Ed program, that extra 2 years to get your Bachelor's of Ed, or heading into master's programs. We've got tons of people from environmentalists all the way to social work and education in a master's level. or going to the college, Con College, for a recreation therapist diploma. And this program opens up so many doors. It's not just specifically, oh, I'm going to be an outdoor guide. Oh, I'm going to, work in a park. You have such a wide range of things you can do. As well, like Glenn was mentioning, the networking opportunities that happen in ORPT. When you mention that you go to Lakehead or you live in Thunder Bay, someone always has some connection to Thunder Bay and to Lakehead, and specifically to ORPT within the industry. It is well renowned. And finally, how you can reach us. We are on social media. We're both on Instagram and on Facebook. You can go check us out. You can see what we're up to and future events that we're hosting as well. If you go check us out on Instagram right after this, you're going to see a contest coming up soon.
I'm just going to add one more thing to the point of careers, and it relates to this slide. Kelsey was somebody who I hired to work for me as a student to help put together our social media platforms. And so there are opportunities for you to get employment while you're a student in our program. Often we have senior students who are helping with the outdoor skills and theory classes. They might have, maybe you have a specialization in a particular aspect of outdoor rec that you're really skilled at teaching. And so in the upper years, you might get hired to help teach those skills in our outdoor skills and theories classes. We often need teaching assistants to help us with our marking. We, in addition to having the gear depot, that equipment library, we also have a sewing lab that we have students who are staffing those labs and equipment library. So there are plenty of opportunities in the field to gain employment while you're a student, as well as there are several opportunities as a student to contribute in a paid way to our program.
Awesome. And what I'll do is I'm going to follow up with everybody after the webinar tonight. So I'll actually put those links into the follow-up email so you don't have to try to cut and paste an cut and pasteable link off the screen today. So I'll follow up with that. I just wondering if you guys would comment a little bit. We've talked specifically about Thunder Bay, but what about students that are coming from Southern, Central Ontario, other parts of Canada, other parts of the world for this type of program, employment opportunities beyond Thunder Bay? I'm assuming everything that you've talked about, Kelsey, Julie, Glenn, can be replicated in any region the student may be wanting to settle in or coming from.
Excuse me, almost all of our students are from outside of Thunder Bay. So we import a lot of students to our program from other parts of Ontario, other provinces, and internationally. So the kinds of skills and opportunities, we have alumni. So as Glenn was saying, like, you can have networks of alumni who have graduated from our program and they know about our program. When they're senior managers of a firm that is looking to employ people, they come to us. So it may not be that they're Thunder Bay based, they may be all over Canada, but they keep coming to us because they know that they can recruit some really amazing staff through our program.
Awesome. And I know you guys have touched on this a little bit when you talked about that kind of that connection, that community, that family feel within the program. But for a student that's maybe just graduating from high school, living in Southern Ontario, Western Ontario, somewhere else in Canada, for the student, sometimes it's kind of scary to think about coming to Thunder Bay. And sometimes it's more scary to convince the parents that it's okay to send their student to Thunder Bay. So can you, is there any advice that you can give to attendees of the webinar today about that transition and to kind of alleviate any nervousness around that?
Yeah, so both Glenn and I actually moved from across the country. Glenn moved from Southern Ontario. So we've both kind of experienced this. One of the things that I think is the absolute best about the program is, yeah, you get in, you're nervous, you don't know anyone, but right away you're building connections through coursework, but also through social events like Rec Frosh. You're getting to meet people right away. And I think residents living on campus really helps with that as well.
Yeah, And I'll be honest here, I was one of those students who was coming from Toronto, a little bit nervous, about to come here, talking to my Toronto friends, being like, I don't know if I'm going to make friends. I don't know if I'm going to like Thunder Bay. But I'm proud to now call Thunder Bay my home, and Thunder Bay feels like home versus when I go back down to Toronto. That's just a place that I'm visiting now. It took about a year, and I just sort of started to learn more and more about the city, and I credit our program really for bringing us around the city and around the area, so that you realize that it's Thunder Bay, and it's so much more than Thunder Bay.
Awesome. And we did have a question about COVID. Now we are hoping that we will kind of migrate back to our more in-person, on-campus delivery in September. Fingers crossed. That's what we're working towards right now. But our question, yes, fingers, toes, arms, absolutely everything. Because I'll tell you, we're not enjoying this any more than our students are probably enjoying remote learning right now. We miss seeing our students, and we miss being on campus. But can you talk a little bit, Julie, and maybe Kelsey and Glenn can add in here as well, just a little bit on what the last year has been like through COVID and how you've adapted the program to still be able to run through this time?
Probably have more of the student perspective, which is most relevant to share. But as an instructor, I really actually see this, I try to be as optimistic as possible. It has given us a whole new range of tools to be able to use, and has challenged us to think about how can we keep giving experiences to our students in a way that is meaningful, yet still offered in a remote way. And I think that coming out of COVID is going to make us all way better instructors, because we have a much bigger toolbox that we can use to teach the classes that we're teaching. So I found that it's challenged my creativity in a positive way to really think about how can I still give my students meaningful experiences, even if they're not in the same room as me. And I'll let Kelsey and Glenn, if I can put you on the spot, to maybe talk about what's worked for you, if anything. I imagine you do have some examples of things that have been actually successful for you in this transition time.
Yeah, I'll say that for some of our courses that would have been very group-based and practical, instructors have been very good about modifying them and giving us instructions that, now this was before our current stay-at-home order, but modifying things so that we had the toolkit we needed to then go out and still spend time outdoors on the land, but just doing activities solo or with a housemate.
One thing we've had students do, like right at the end of the semester, they were finishing their second year outdoor skills and theory course, and they had to demonstrate that they could make a fire with flint and steel. So this is a special technique. You don't have matches, you don't have lighters. And the instructor had to adapt because suddenly we were forced into an online learning mode without even having any warning about that. So the students ended up building their fires, in the backyard with their flint and steel, and they had to document it with a video and send that in as their evidence of having acquired that skill. And so actually we have posted some of those videos on our Facebook site, which ended up being, I think, just a way of making it work. Those same skills were learned. It just didn't happen to be in the same physical environment. They still got done.
Awesome, thank you. I love how all the questions are waited till almost the end, so this is fantastic. So we have a couple more. So this student is not your kind of direct from high school student, so just wondering kind of what the makeup of in a typical class. So is it primarily, or is our cohorts primarily made out of direct from high school? Is it more of a mix of students and genders, and kind of that transition as a mature learner moving into a university program?
So I came in as a mature student. So I had these exact same concerns. I was afraid I was going to be in a classroom with all 18-year-olds, and how was I ever going to connect to them? One great thing about this program is that it attracts so many different people. So there are tons of mature students that come in. So it's a really nice mix. You've got your students that have come straight from high school. You've got your students that have taken 1 year off, and you've got your students like me who took 5, 6, 7 years off. before coming back to university. And the thing with that is everyone brings so much experience, whether they know it or not. You have experience, you have knowledge that is so valuable in the program, and you're going to connect with people in different ways. So you're not only just going to connect with mature students. If you're a mature student, you're going to connect with those students that came right out of high school, because you're going to have something in common or an interest that you want to explore.
Yeah, building off of what Kelsey was saying, myself as well, I came into the program as a mature student. I had the exact same hesitations, and I was so thankful that when I got here, it was very quick that it was very apparent quickly that there are other people in my exact situation. I was able to make a really good crew of friends who were all mature students. And as you go through the program now in our 4th year, that gap's called a maturity gap between younger students and students coming back after a few years. That gap really closes by the time you're in 3rd and 4th year, and even before that. So there is quite a range of students coming into the program.
Awesome. That was fantastic. Thanks, guys. So we have a question specifically for Kelsey and Glenn, just for you to tell us a little bit more about your ideal career goals and paths upon graduation. So maybe tell us what your dream job is, or where you see yourself going in the industry. And I'd love to know if it's changed from the start of your program versus the end, because many times we have ideals on what the industry is going to provide to us, and as we learn and grow through the program, those paths change as well.
For me, I kind of started that I wanted to work in municipal recreation, and this degree was going to help me be able to plan and organize programs, and then somehow figure out how much I loved the outdoors and work that into my job. So I didn't have a huge plan coming into it. Coming out of it, I've still stuck with some of the idea of I want to work with youth, and I want to implement programs, but I'm actually heading into a Master's of Social Work with my ideal dream job of being able to do outdoor tripping with youth.
So for myself, I worked in the industry of outdoor recreation for about 4 years before I came to the program. I was a professional outdoor educator. I loved that job, and that's what spurred me to come back to school. I wanted to learn a little more, boost my qualifications, and actually be on the flip side of what I was doing. I was facilitating. I wanted to move more into either management, or as I found out, I really enjoy teaching, and I want to bring that into a classroom. So as I mentioned earlier, I am in the double degree, so I'm getting my Bachelor of Education over the next 2 years, and I will be going into full-time teaching. And that's something that I've just loved always, but especially now being able to intertwine the values of outdoor education with the traditional four-walled classroom.
Awesome. Julie, did you have something you wanted to add?
I wasn't being asked that question, but
go ahead.
Kind of bring it full circle. One of the things that is really great about our program is that breadth. A lot of students come into the program because they want to be a wilderness guide, and that's great. If that's the pathway you want to take, that's awesome. But along the way, you learn about tourism entrepreneurship, you learn about parks management, you learn about the therapeutic side of outdoor recreation. And so you discover these elements and avenues within the field that you maybe hadn't thought about, and get drawn to that area. And so I find I have students who say, wow, I didn't really think that this was an opportunity, and now this is where I want to go with my career. So they discover that in the program. So as long as you're interested in the outdoors, you'll find a place where you want to go with that.
So much flexibility. And that's the one thing to really understand with this degree. It does give you so much flexibility and lots of different options to where you can go in your career upon graduation, to how you can progress through your career as well. So it's not a, not a limiting degree at all. And the final question right now, just before we kind of do some general close into the webinar today, it's a question around COVID and whether or not we're going to be continuing to study remotely in the fall, or whether we're going to be back on campus. And I'll tell you, this is the magic ball question. If you had told us this time last year that we would be in a lockdown for 10 months and we would be delivering programs remotely and we'd figure out all these interest in ways of connections and learning, we would have told you that was craziness. That's not going to happen, and we have now been living that life for the last 10 months. So as I mentioned a little bit earlier in the webinar, at this point we are hoping and planning, fingers and all our body parts crossed, that we will be able to return to in-person on-campus delivery in the fall. But you know, we've managed to figure things out, and we've managed to still continue teaching and offering our programs in a way that allows our students to engage and to learn and progress through their degree. And I will say, during COVID, you don't have a lot of other options. You might as well go to school. Can't travel. Can't really work that much. There's not a lot of options, so why not advance your education? So it is actually one of the best times to study and learn at home, and come out with some amazing opportunities and credentials upon graduation. Julie, did you have anything you wanted to add to
that? We are trying to make it work as best as possible. We're rearranging the order in which some of the classes are being taken. So we're adapting. We're meeting pretty much every week, figuring out how can we do this as best as we can within those parameters that we're given. So we're definitely trying to give the students as great an opportunity as we can. And you know, if that means that we end up pushing things a little bit for those of you who are coming to first year, there will still, I can't imagine that this will be, you know, online learning for 4 years. We will have real field-based experiences, real in-class learning within your time frame at LU.
If nothing else, it's something great to add on to your resume afterwards. You know, flexibility, adaptability, leadership. You know, you've lived through a pandemic. Come on, let's market that in a good way. So yes, we're working hard to put some things in place. So, you know, we love our campus so much, and we've really talked about our love of our campus, and it's been so great to share some of our joys and our connections with you, and we'd love for you to come to campus, but at this time the best way for you to experience a campus tour is through our virtual tour. So we're not at this point able to offer in-person tours. We do have some strategies in place to start offering some personal virtual campus tours, and we're hoping to roll that out in February, so you can keep watching our website for details as we are adjusting and changing our campus tour program. Until then, until we're able to actually either provide a virtual personal campus tour, a small in-person campus tour, you can tour both our campuses virtually through our website. Please do check that out. And we know and we hope that today is just another page in the journey of discovery, learning about Lakehead University, and we've really enjoyed our time together today, but we want you to stay in touch with us. I'm going to send out some links at the end of the webinar today for the Outdoor Recreation, Parks and Tourism social media connections that Kelsey's been doing a great job on. You can book a meeting with us directly, so that's within my team and my department, myself, Rebecca, and we have a whole group of colleagues that would love to connect with you and help and support you and answer questions as well. You can follow us on social media as well. Check out our virtual campus tour. We want to stay in touch with you, and so these are the best ways for us to engage with you and kind of help and support you. So in closing today, you know, when I think about Lakehead and I think about university, I think about adventure, I think about opportunities, I think about community. And for those of you that are willing, it's also about independence as well and success. So these are 4 years or 6 years in Glenn's case, if you're doing a double degree, that will really help define and shape you and give you opportunities that you didn't even know were out there. And it's years that you basically take a chance, you know, explore kind of the opportunity out there. And Lakehead has so much available and so much to offer you. So we really invite you to welcome to open your world to this unconventional education opportunity, and we look forward for you joining us and taking that next step on your life adventure, and we'd love to be a part of that. So that's kind of the end of our official webinar today. We want to thank everybody who's hung out with us. It's been great to have so many with you online with us today and sharing this webinar with us. We will be hanging out with you for a few more minutes. I'll be doing follow-up with everybody after the webinar as well with our contact information, but other than that, I don't think there's any other questions. You can see it's getting darker in all of our rooms. We're slowly losing the light. We were joking about this at the beginning about proper light, and then I'm like, oh, I forgot to put my main light on before we started the webinar as well. But I want to thank everybody for hanging out with us and joining us. Thank you to Julie, Kelsey, and Glenn for showcasing this amazing program, sharing your stories and your adventure. And thank you to Rebecca for all the behind the scenes support as well. We look forward to welcoming you to Lakehead University and hope to see you on campus in fall 2021. Thanks so much, guys. See you again soon.